Geek Out Tap coming to you during this time of love in the Rona. Today we are covering episode 5 of Clone Wars, Ahsoka, her continued journey. I love Ahsoka. Starting to think twice about her episodes. Editor coming out of San Antonio, Texas, from Seattle and San Francisco, still Rona free.
As far as you know.
All right. And so, as always, one of my favorite places to be is on these geek outings with these geeks here. So thanks for tuning in, joining us again. Today we're talking about episode 5, and I hope we're going to get to that quickly because I hadn't seen the first couple of seasons. So, yeah, I'm liking Ahsoka, but from what I saw, I have a lot more questions. So I'm hoping we can get to it as quick as spice flies out the Silver Angel's bay doors.
Ooh.
Oh, by the way, spoilers. Oh, and this is Bobby Joel Cole from Santa Monica.
Rob, Loose Dog Lucy, coming at you from Southern Oregon, and excited to be here for another episode of the Geek Out Tap Reviews Clone Wars. I have to say, I was not impressed with this episode at all. I'm a huge Ahsoka fan. I've enjoyed this, but this episode gets 2 thumbs down from Rob. What do you think, Boba Fresh?
Welcome from San Francisco, California, Boba Fresh, and no one is the best. Episode 5, second in the arc. I think that this highlights the...
6.
Thank you, episode 6. I think that this highlights the nowhere that we were talking about last episode, that it was just kind of a clunky, not moving very fast anywhere. Lucy was correct that there was a starship that lifted up out of the main corridor and flew off. It was a lot of fan service, a lot of lip service to the idea of the Kessel and the Kessel Run. All in all, yeah, I thought it was an okay episode in what has been already a really good season. And you know, I usually come in like this was not a filler episode. This was a filler episode, and it was supposed to be the start of something. So it just kind of was, like I said, a little clunky and uninspired.
Damn. I mean, I totally agree, but then, you know, of course, I'm going to try to find something that we can talk about, even though there wasn't really much provided in the episode. One thing I did notice is a lot of social commentary in it. Trace talking about no one down here can afford school, yet she's constantly like trying to better her life anyway. If anything, I watched this episode like, I'm going to date myself, like an episode of Herman's Head. It was like one person with 3 different sides of like a way of looking at life, trying to move forward. It was like the optimist, the pessimist, and the realist, right? You got Trace, Ahsoka,
Here I am.
and Rafa. Please mute that.
Piss off.
What did you think, Bobby?
Piss off, Paisa. This is cool.
Geek Kryptonite. Geek tonight.
Geek.
I love all y'all. I haven't hugged anybody in like a week, dude. It's fucking driving me crazy.
I feel you on that 100%.
I miss hugs. 3 hugs a day. I have not been able to get my 3 hugs a day in rule. Yeah, Ed, I think that you make a great point. And maybe that was the only, not to say the only interesting thing about the episode, but where the episode's strength shown was showing a different aspect of galactic life within the Empire. And, you know, like, I mean, they do a great job with Trace being like, does it really matter if it's the Empire or if it's the Republic? like none of this is getting here. This issue of poverty being actually looked at, of entrepreneurship and drive, because we've had poor people before, but they've literally been slaves or they've been drug dealers. Anakin Skywalker.
Okay. I didn't know there was poor people.
And
Totally baiting you right now. Such a slow move right now.
So yeah, I thought it was cool how they kind of dealt with, we're the forgotten about people here, and how you have to scrape together credits. But yeah, I think that there could have been something a bit more meatier. Maybe the drug running, the spice running was a little undercut. What do you say, Bob?
Well, you know what? It's funny. And maybe it was just on my mind. This is almost like a sounding chamber, because we have been talking about it week after week. But before I get into that, because that's a long-running thread, a few cool things. One, when they were lifting off in the starship, I thought it really captured a grandness to it, like almost like Coruscant. Like you just got a sense of like grandioseness to all these things flying around, coordinated way. That I have a question, which I called. She had an interaction with Anakin somehow. You know what I mean? He even like force sensed her. And why? So is it that he didn't care legitimately, or realizes that by not giving her up, she's an in for him? Like, what was that all about? And okay, no,
that was classic Star Wars heavy-handed recall, because that's basically what happens with Obi-Wan Kenobi coming onto the Death Star, and Anakin's all, and he's like, it's the I sent something, but right, it was a forced hand that didn't need to be there. Like, she's flying in the military lane and he happens to be there. They're going to stop the ship. Really? You're going to arrest the ship in Coruscant? Like, that doesn't happen that often. Like, it's a wartime issue, I get. But, yeah, I thought that was one of those hand-fisted, not needed Star Wars. By the way, we're in Star Wars.
I didn't even get the New Hope nod. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So on the list of the cool.
Hold on, before you the next question. The other thing tied to that too is Rob saying fan service. That scene is also the same as Return of the Jedi, when Luke is coming to Endor and Vader senses him, and it's that ship when they're using the fake code, just like they do in this one. Like they're not in the right place. They're trying to fake their way through it. It's exactly the same thing that happens here. And then tied to that, there's a lot of Harrison Ford references here. There's one which is when they're like, "What's your code?" And he's like, and then Rafa's like, "I don't need a code," or something along those lines. It's kind of like in the first Star Wars movie when they're like, "Who's operating this right now?" And then that's when Han Solo shoots the thing, and they're like, "It was a boring conversation anyway." That kind of happens in that interaction. And then also, Rafa says, "We are, what is it? We're looking for fortune and glory." That is a straight up Indiana Jones reference. That is Short Round repeating something that Indiana Jones says to the chick from Temple of Doom. Two Harrison Ford references.
It's funny that you say that, because the next thing on my list was going to be that we definitely had echoes of Han Solo in Trace and her ship, and how she loves it. It's the fastest ship around. It does the Kessel references and all that, definitely echoes of Han Solo throughout that whole thing. And now to get to what I thought was the coolest part, and again, it's only even occurred to me because of our talks on this, but I thought it was very cool in almost throwaway sort of way that they have this whole misconception that everyone in Kessel was rich, and those were all droids down there collecting all that stuff. And then when they realize it's not droids and it's people, it just brings up the whole thing that not only are they not all rich, but they're all just working as slaves. But how are they look at droids and people differently, and how that should shift their sense of empathy, but doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, anyway.
Yeah,
What do you
Bobby,
think,
I
Ed?
agree with you 100% on that. What I found interesting, one of the few points of interest for me in the episode, when they mentioned, wow, how doesn't the Republic know about this? And Ahsoka's like, yeah, I think the Republic knows about this. She kind of makes that reference.
I think what she says is like, shouldn't they be doing something about this?
Yeah,
And
like,
yeah, they
Well, they said,
should.
yeah, if the Republic knew about it, they'd do something about it for sure.
It kind of validates her leaving or the ongoing discussion we've had about how the Republic is, very shady, as much, I think they're just as shady, if not more shady, than the Separatists at this point. But I digress. Bobby, you started off with Anakin sensing Ahsoka. I thought that was an important moment in there, but also a throwback to Star Wars throughout the generations. More recently, you guys have already mentioned
do you
a couple
think he
things.
sensed her or not? That's
Oh yeah, he certainly they sensed each other. You could see it in their faces.
Yeah, then that's why I don't get why I didn't get more
that
reaction.
just happened in The Force Awakens when Kylo Ren senses his mom Leia on the Star Destroyer, and they sense each other for a second there. That is what Robert Strauder or Boba Fresh had said. That is an ongoing, stereotypical Star Wars move. But besides those few things, this episode was forced so much. I mean, come on, oh, we're going on a mission that I'm not going to tell you until we've started. Like, come on. It's a poorly written episode. It is a poorly written episode.
I couldn't figure it out either. I was like, Silver
Well,
Angel.
you know what?
What part offends you, Silver or Angel?
No, and also, no, you're right. It is poorly written because things happen just because the plot demands it. Like, why would Trace dump the cargo because she's having like an anxiety attack? Like,
exactly.
What? Come on.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that wasn't terrible because then you get to see, for the first time. Well, then once again, maybe things are happening.
Dude, if your friend had 10 pounds of coke and you were nervous about it, you wouldn't flush it. You know better than to get rid of it.
Sometimes you will. I'm just saying, it's for the first time, Rafa and Ahsoka see eye to eye, and that's maybe the only plot point there.
But exactly, but that's the thing. That's why I agree with what Bobby and Lucy are saying, is that it's a forced hand at that. Like they force it to get there. Bobby is completely correct. Even if she's naive about the dangers of it, I don't see how she is. Like, she's made it to a womanhood in Coruscant, so she's got some kind of savvy about her, and so she's got to understand that spice is not, it's not Coca-Cola, it's Coke. And
this is what disappoints me about this episode more than anything else. And what Rob Strauder said last week, they developed 3 strong female characters. They flushed all that down the toilet with the lunacy of the entire episode.
Yeah,
the entire way.
Really?
Ahsoka's like, oh, you've never been to hyperspace? Stop the ship! Drop me off at the closest moon! You guys are crazy!
Interesting.
Like, I did not leave the Jedi Order to join the Keystone Cops. Goodness gracious.
Speaking of the Jedi Order, you want to talk about a drop plot point? She doesn't even have to hide the fact she's a Jedi this episode.
No, well, I think that's what they're setting up.
About last episode.
So now they're in the tractor beam. She'll get pulled down. She's going to have to bust out with her Jedi skills to get him out of the situation that they're in right now. I mean, there's no doubt that's going to be the next episode. Maybe Anakin Skywalker put a tracer on the ship, or is like, hey, watch where these people are going, because he recognized it. That might be a plot point. Just so I'm glad it was a filler episode. Let's hope next week episode is better written and they redeem themselves. I have high hopes that they will.
I don't feel that this is as strong as the prior story arc was, and I can't tell if that they're coming off such a strong story arc that it seems weak, or if it is just innately a weaker storyline. I definitely, like, I'd like to see these three characters developed more. I'd like to see the world done more. I'd like to see some justice to the slave owners and the drug deals and, like, like all the things that they're pushing for. But yeah, everything feels like, for an episode that I felt last week did nothing, I feel like there was two episodes of information crammed into this episode. And so it went too fast and thus was a little unsatisfying. Hopefully it really develops in the next two, and we get a good Ahsoka solid outing and goodbye.
And yeah, so what you said, like last week, we were saying like so what was the point of that episode? This did feel like another just meandering episode. It's like, well, to what end is any of this happening? If it is just a self-contained story like the Bad Bunch, then yeah, it's definitely weaker. They should have led with this and had the Bad Bunch as like a second 4 episode or something. Or I think the only way it can redeem itself is if these people we're getting to know about are critical to the second half of this like last season ever. Otherwise, it feels like wasted episodes because they weren't strong. And if they're just going to be forgotten in episodes, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever, then why bother? This late in the game is my feeling.
No, you're 100% right, especially after watching the Bad Bunch and how quickly that progressed and like you got interested in it. I don't feel like people are really too interested at this point in this, but one thing I'm sure I will watch this episode for repeatedly in the future is that scene when Anakin senses her, because to me, what it symbolized, as a fucking guy who has a daughter who's 18, is he let her go. He knew that she was leaving planet, and I think the planet is Coruscant, by the way, Bobby.
It is.
And I feel like he knew that she was going to be gone forever. And until that point, he knew that she was somewhere on that planet. And at that moment, it's just like, do we let her go, sir? Do we pull her over? And he's like, nah.
Oh.
And
Speaking as a father that just saw his daughter leave to college. Interesting insight.
I mean, I think it was the equivalent of it. I don't think he was playing dumb. I don't think he was doing anything else. I think it's quite the opposite of Vader letting Luke come to the planet because he knows he's going to take him to the Emperor. It's quite the opposite. It's also very similar. Yeah. Also very similar.
It's amazing what you can read into something by, how not to be biased, but like almost like a forced perspective from your own history and experience. Like, I don't think I would have even seen that, but because you just went through that, you totally like identified with maybe some just ambiguous things that like I read into totally different motivations. Anyway, I find that pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that's called art.
All right, looking forward to next week.
I'm sorry, even though it's poorly written, I think there's still some piece of art in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah, there's art.
I'm leaving that one.
That's art.
Staying in.
That's art.
Hey, we look forward to reading your comments. What do you think were the best parts of the episode? What were your least favorite parts of the episode? Fan interaction is the best. Like, comment, subscribe. Rob Lucy signing off from Southern Oregon.
This was super fun geeking out. Keep on geeking on. So Bobby Joel signing off from Santa Monica, California. Like and subscribe. Check out our other episodes. We're also going to be launching a new segment. Surprise, guys. Didn't let you know about it yet. But hey, if you guys want to write in some questions or suggestions, write into geekouttap@gmail.com, and we'll try to address them on one of the future episodes. Looking forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep on geeking on.
And this is Boba Fresh from San Francisco, having a great time geeking on and geeking out with y'all. See y'all on the other side, the dark side.
Hopefully not. I hope Ahsoka gets some redemption. Editor, San Antonio, signing out. Ignore the friendly white ghost we call Eric Vogel.
Oh, yeah.
Ghost.
You
haven't heard that name for a while.
Bobby, I fight for you even though you don't deserve it. Just saying.
That's going to be the end of the episode. I got to tell you that right now.